What's going on, everyone? It's Sheena, aka Sheenapreneur, your favorite veteran. Today I want to talk to you about how to get into government contracting with no experience. This is going to be a fast and furious video. I want you to just pay attention because I'm just going to throw out a few things that you can do when you don't have any experience in government contracting, but you're like, yo, Sheena, I want to try to get this money. I want the money raining down on me. I heard about government contracting. I watched some of your other videos. Went down YouTube University, but I don't have any experience. How do I get started in government contracting? We'll talk about it right after the intro. Hey everyone, welcome to my channel. Here on the Sheenapreneur channel, I share information about government contracting, veteran business content, and other business tips. Intro. Okay, so you heard about government contracting, maybe you haven't. Maybe this is your first time here. This is your first time to my channel, so welcome. Welcome to the tribe. Welcome to the GovCon Moneymakers tribe. And I too had no experience with government contracting when I first started. If you don't know me, I am a retired Army warrant officer. I was a signal warrant officer, which means I did IT. That's the fancy language for IT in the Army for 20 years. Retired in 2022. And then I went rogue and started doing facility management for my company, Foresight Industries. So I started that while I was still transitioning out of my job. I was also a DoD civilian. I was a soldier. I was all of that, worked for corporate companies as a software engineer. So I was like an IT nerd or whatever. But I said, I don't want to do that no more. And I like real estate, did real estate a little bit, but then jumped over to government contracting doing facility management, which was kind of like a matchup for the real estate renovation stuff that I was doing. So I didn't have any experience. I really just had the real estate background, not even real estate background. I was not an agent. I was not a broker. All I did was I was a landlord. I had a contractor. I flipped and I wholesaled. So it kind of helped me understand like the paperwork process a little bit better when I did the real estate stuff. So that's why it was a little easier to transition into government contracting, I guess, compared to other people. And also military, of course, was like so much paperwork. But really, the real estate side was what really helped me understand how to read paperwork a little bit better. I'm finding that that's what made it easier compared to people who have never been in a job where you had to do like extensive like reading of documents, every single line. You know, even when I did coding and IT, I had to really read and pay attention to detail. So not having any experience is not necessarily a kill for government contracting. And if you watch my other videos, you're like,
but Sheena, you be saying like, don't do stuff that I don't understand.
Yes, I still stand on that. I stand on that. Like, don't do something that you're just totally lost about. I want you to be a student of the game. So if you were like me, you in IT and then you went over to construction, learn about construction. That doesn't necessarily mean you need to get a GC license because in some states it's very hard to get a GC license. And by the time you get it, you might not be interested anymore doing government contracting. But I want you to understand what you're doing. And so one of the things that you can really do to understand the industry that you're going into with no experience, no background, whatever, one of the things you could do is get a mentor in that space. I have so many, it's beautiful when I hear people say, oh, my mom was in construction. Oh, my dad was in construction. My aunt was IT, you know, she staffed people for large corporations. She staffed IT people for large corporations as her job. All these different industries. Oh, my mom was a nurse. Like all those industries where you have someone connected to you who can help you understand the jargon. It may just be you had a conversation with them. It may be you sit down like, look, I got these documents. I need you to help me go through them. That's a really great way for you to get into something that you're not really familiar with, but you have someone who is familiar with it and who can help you understand the jargon. Or at least if you bid on it and you win, they can help you go through the actual execution of the contract as well. So that's one way that you can start without having any experience. Also, it sounds so crazy and cliche, but like reading YouTube videos, finding out how you can do this thing. Now, YouTube University goes a long way. And I'm a true testament to using YouTube University when I first started to learn about government contracting. There weren't a lot of people out there talking about government contracting. And there was like a couple of like YouTubers and then everybody else was dry, like super dry, or like working for the SBA or the SBDC. So you can learn a lot about anything on YouTube. So if you do that or you read, you can learn a lot about the industry that you want to go into. Don't just jump into it just saying that, oh, I can probably do that. Like get some knowledge about it because you're not going to know the gaps. And there's so many examples I have of people who didn't do that and they didn't know the gaps and there were problems. because now it's time to execute. You know, you bid, you won, and now it's time to execute, and there's no sympathy. Like, the agency doesn't care if you understand or not. They don't care if you're a sub. They got the agreement with you and not your sub usually, unless there's like a specific subcontracting agreement with the agency, but that's not typical. So they rely on you and your knowledge to execute. So you have to be able to fill in those gaps. And it may be something that's easy for you to understand. Like, I mean, janitorial is not easy, but it's easy to understand clean versus not clean. You know, there may be different things that you use or whatever, but that's still something that is relatively easy to understand. If you're trying to be a physicist or something where you're not clear and you have to ask a lot of questions about, then I would strongly suggest not going into that industry. On those same lines, hiring an expert in that field when it comes to that work that you want to get into. Like, you may not have experience painting outdoors, for example, but you're hiring someone and you just kind of like learn from them. I know it's, you know, like, well, I'm already in it now, but that's still a way. That's kind of how I learned. But then I learned also that my contractor didn't know everything. And so I knew I had to buckle down and learn my pricing, learn what these different terms are, because a lot of times they may not be available when the contracting officer is calling you or the facility manager is calling you or whomever wants to talk to you specifically about certain things. You have to be educated on these things when it comes time to execute these contracts. One of the most powerful ways that you can do this, like say you're still trying to figure it out and you haven't won anything and you haven't really gone into anything. One of the most powerful ways to start government contracting with no experience is to read solicitations. I promise you, there's gonna be a lot of jargon. Now, everybody's not a reader, but look, you're gonna have to be a reader in this industry, or you're gonna have to get someone who does the reading for you or breaks down a solicitation for you to help you understand. Now, I know some of the jargon is overwhelming, but at the end of the day, when you look at some of these solicitations, they're super easy. I promise you, if you can read, you can do this. So I would say read solicitations. Say it's painting. Say you're like, I just want to do painting. That's it. Start looking for painting solicitations, whether it's on SAM.gov, Gov Directions, which is my fave, BidNet Direct, or any of these other industries. Look at those solicitations and even some awards to see what the language is, because a lot of times the language is going to be repetitive. They're going to ask for a lot of things that are the same in all of these different solicitations about painting. And so you're going to say, oh wow, you know, they're asking for this type of paint all the time. So I have to get familiar with this type of paint versus another type of paint, because I was just thinking about going to Sherwin-Williams or Walmart and say, yo, let me get this paint. And it's not the commercial grade paint that is usually used. It might only be used, let's just say residential, for example. I mean, I don't know if that's actually a thing, but whatever it is, start reading the solicitation. That is like key. And that also gets you more comfortable with bidding. I noticed that people are just very, very afraid of bidding. I get it. I want you to have the courage. I want you to be strong and mighty, you know, do it scared, but read solicitations as you're building up that confidence to bid on something, because you'll start to see a lot of redundancy. When I first started, there was a gentleman that told me, you know, a lot of times these solicitations are redundant. And I was like, lies, it's not true. But he was so right. I mean, we do a varying amount of things for my company, Foresight Industries. It's still under facility management, facility support services. So we do janitorial, we do floor repair, painting, pressure washing, litter pickup. So those multiple different things, but a lot of the stuff is still repetitive. Like, it's a service-based, very much so service-based. So that's like the commonality amongst all of these contracts. And so I'm able to identify many things where I'm like, they didn't mention ABC. I understand that now. So if I was to read solicitations about just all litter contracts, then I'll get more experience with litter, like how that's usually calculated. Is it calculated per square mile? Is it calculated per acre? I just learned that some agencies calculate per acre. I had never seen it before, like a couple of weeks ago. Is it calculated like you have to have a certain amount of employees? Do they have to wear vests? Do they have to arrive at a certain time? How many times per month? Those types of things are like, you know, they'll become more redundant. And as you're ready to bid, say you do this for 30 straight days, and then you're like, I'm ready now. I feel confident. I've read dozens of litter solicitations. Now I have a good understanding. That's what really gets you to that confidence level when you don't have the experience, because this is what the agency is asking. They're telling you exactly what they want. There's going to be some gaps there, But if you start reading enough, you probably will be able to fill in most of those gaps and at least be at like 90% of understanding for whatever industry or whatever type of opportunity you're going after. So I just want to give a fast and furious way to get into government contracting with no experience. You have people that you know, people that you hire, reading solicitations, YouTube University, reading. Those are the things that I feel like will really, really help you in this realm of government contracting, getting started with no experience. So until next time, it's your favorite veteran,